Freedom greeting to all the free, honest, creative, and lovers everywhere. Since the Islamic Revolution in 1979, Iran has been using a number of tools to achieve its foreign policy goals of spreading Shiite Islamic revolution, New Persia, and identity throughout Shiite community in the Middle East in order to become the regional hegemon. The country's nuclear program and its support of resistance against Israel were the primary tools used to achieve this goal. The nuclear program was meant to force the international community to recognize Iran's power and negotiate a deal that will give Iran a free hand in the region in return. And resistance was used to garner popular support and establish a threat to Israel that reflects Iranian power. From the very beginning, Iran's goal has been the establishment of Shiite Arab territory that physically link Iran to southern Lebanon via Iraq and Syria. This required Iranian control, mostly by a proxy, over three capitals: Baghdad, Damascus, and Beirut. The Syrian civil war was not a good news for Iran and its proxies in the region. But as it dragged on, it provided Iran with an opportunity to accelerate its control over the three capitals and secure the contiguous territory it needs, while the international community is consumed with the fighting ISIS. Iran is almost done fortifying its greater Shiite territory. One cannot understand Iran's imperialist intentions and the means by which it plans to accomplish them without understanding Shi'ism itself. The rise of militant Shi'ism began in Lebanon when Hezbollah was established in 1982. Although its ethos of resistance was a very successful tool to attract support and exert power, it wouldn't have been successful without a strategy that constructed a new Shiite identity. Hezbollah has thus based its strategy on three pillars. By monopolizing Shiites around this narrative, Hezbollah became the most powerful leader of Shiite in Lebanon. It started to infiltrate state institutions through proxies and allies of Syrian dictator Bashar al-Assad until they inherited all of Syria's power over Lebanon in 2005 when the Syrian army withdrew. All of this led to the extreme politicization of the Shiite community, where politics and history combined to form sacred narrative. During the 2006 war with Israel, this narrative was used to declare a divine victory. Tales of long-dead historical figures like Hussein ibn Ali and Sayyida Zainab coming to protect Hezbollah fighters separate in the Shia towns and cities until the Shiite narrative became a cause of its own. In fact, it came to define Shiite collective identity. The Syrian civil war dragged Hezbollah into battle beside Iran, the main power in the region. Hezbollah and Iranian officials made it clear that the fight in Syria was going to be long and full of sacrifices. In 2015, Hezbollah leader Hassan Nasrallah reportedly said that the battle against the Kafirin infidels is an existential battle and will be fought to the end, even if two-thirds of the Shiites have to die. As the Syrian conflict reached the Sakar narrative remained, public discontent was quelled for a time by comparing the battle in the Syria to Karbala. Besides claiming to defend Shiite towns and shrines, Hezbollah started making its involvement as necessary to defend Shiite power and even the community's very existence against the infidel. Exactly as Hussein ibn Ali did in the 7th century, Hezbollah also claimed that the war in Syria was a sacred battle that will pave the way for the appearance of the awaited Mahdi, the 12th Imam, who serves as a messianic figure for the Shiite. It is believed that the Mahdi will suddenly appear with his army in Damascus carrying yellow flag and restore peace. But as casualties mounted in Syria, the Shiite community began to realize that the Sakar narrative is not always a recipe for victory. Before the war in Syria, Hezbollah fighters and their supporters believed in the resistance as a personal goal. Their aspiration to liberate their land was clear and had direct and concrete results. Hezbollah presented itself as the strongest and most credible resistance and military force. But that is not the case today. Hezbollah's fighters no longer have an immediate and personal cause to fight for. They have become proxies for foreign powers. Moreover, fighting in Syria is more an economic opportunity than a battle for existence. Hezbollah is still using its narrative of existential threat, but its fighters are there for the money. Hezbollah fighters in Syria sign a 2-year contract with salaries between $5,000 and $1,200, and this is now the only option for many poor Shiites who have lost the opportunity to work in Sunni states because of Hezbollah, sectarian, theoretical, and isolation. In fact, they have become mercenaries for Iran and will have to go wherever they are required, be it Lebanon, Syria, Iraq, or Yemen. But the main issue that directly affecting the Shiite community is Hezbollah's money problem. Iran is still providing funds to Hezbollah, but it is also financing other Shiite militias. Iran is still providing funds to Hezbollah, but it is still also financing other Shiite militias in the region. Primarily in Iraq, Hezbollah has been forced to relocate more funds to its military operations in Syria, leading to a serious decline in social service. Without these services, popular support for the terrorist group has weakened. Divisions have also surfaced within the movement. For example, fighters are rewarded for their effort while non-competent members are expected to wait until victory for their compensation. Social services in general are now going to fighters. and their families rather than ordinary Shiites. The three pillars of Hezbollah's narrative are now falling like dominoes. The supposed resistance to Israel has become a sectarian fight between Muslims. Hezbollah social service have declined, and the sacred link to Wilayat al-Faqih is met with skepticism due to the rising number of young Shiites dying in Syria. But regardless, Iran has nearly already won. Today, Hezbollah, the Iraqi Popular Mobilization Unit, and Syrian army and pro-Assad factions constitute one force under control of Iran's Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps. This is a pan-Shiite army founded and trained by the Islamic Revolutionary Guard in order to consolidate Iranian control over the region. The Iraqi militias supported by Iran are now being assimilated into the Iraqi army, including military and security institutions. In Syria, Iran is the sole decision maker in the area controlled by the regime forces, which are branched from the Alawite coast up to Homs, the suburbs of Damascus, Qalamun, and the Lebanese border. To complete its imperialist plan, Iran now only needs to link Tal Afar, which is under siege by the Iraqi militia, to Syria via Sinjar. This should not be particularly difficult. By controlling the three capitals, fostering an army of almost 100,000 Arab Shiites under the Iranian Revolution Guard Command, and maintaining a land bridge to consolidate its power, Iran will be firmly entrenched as a regional hegemon, controlling a territory that stretched from Tehran to Beirut via Baghdad. The day after Baghdad announcing that the Shia militia will be folded into Army's elite Fifth Corps, Iran's militias in Iraq and Syria have a legal cover protecting them from international accusation of terrorism. They will still get their order from Iran. However, as both Iraq and Syria lost their status as independent sovereign states. In Lebanon, the case is different, as Hezbollah already has total control over state institutions. To maintain the regional corridor through which it deploys and supplies its proxy army, Iran has restored to demographic changes. Example, ethnic cleansing, mainly in Syria. The Sunni population of Homs and Damascus suburbs has been evacuated over the past several years and moved to Idlib province. The residents of these areas, who were under siege for 4 years, surrendered after heavy regime bombardment and deteriorating humanitarian conditions. Assad's starve or surrender tactics in this area have forced many rebels to give up in exchange for basic needs such as food, medicine, etc. The towns of Daraya, Alwar, Ghouta, Zabadani, Madaya, Yarmouk, and other areas around Damascus are targets to ethnic cleansing. Iraqi families, particularly from Shiite-heavy southern provinces are being moved to Syria, repopulate these areas. Harakat Hezbollah al-Nujaba, an Iraqi Shiite parliamentary force close to Iran, has reportedly overseen the resettlement of 300 such families who were given homes, all of that led by the new Persian Empire. Iran and its proxy militias are very involved in this process. Hezbollah has already conducted ethnic cleansing of its own in certain areas along the border. Moreover, hundreds of thousands of Sunnis were evacuated from Homs between 2011 and 2014, when a deal was finally struck with regime forces after starvation reached horrifying level. As a result of these efforts, a corridor linking Kalamun to Damascus, Homs, and an Alawite enclave is almost Sunni-free, in addition to shielding the capital from mainly Sunni anti-Assad forces. This gives Hezbollah safe access to the Golan Heights, potentially allowing the group to open another front against Israel. And that is supposed to happen. But there is no any aggression war against Israel, as always they claim. Iran could also use its reinforced grip over Syria and Lebanon, project more power against Israel. That is true. But what is the result is absolutely lie. Whether by supporting Hezbollah in the Golan or increasing its assistance to Palestinian group like Hamas, nothing happened. It is a scenario to claim lies of freeing Palestine, and we know those lies is consumed recently. Nothing happened. Israel is strong and the other countries is weak. It is a historical relation between the Persian and the Jews back to the time of Babylon. Let us leave the history for a while. It is one thing to implement a strategy, but it's much harder to sustain it. Iran will probably reach its goal of a Shia corridor or a new Persian Empire, and very soon. But this will not be the end of the story. Iran will still surrounded by a sea of Sunnis, all concerned by Iran's growing hegemony. In addition, the deep-rooting divisions among and within the Shiite militias will further complicate Iran's plan. For example, the rush to realize Iran's strategy was preceded by shakeups in the hierarchy of Shiite militias in Syria. When Hezbollah entered the war in 2012, it was Tehran's most trusted and capable force on the ground. The conquest of Al-Qusayr confirmed its status as the right hand by Islamic Revolutionary Guard, working directly under them. Hezbollah was trusted to head all ground operations and manage other Shiite militias. Although the Iraqi Shiite fought for the group Liwa Abu al-Fadl al-Abbas, they were essentially under Hezbollah leadership, as were the numerous Shiite foreign fighters from Pakistan and Afghanistan. But when Hezbollah began to show weakness, mainly in Aleppo, and suffered more losses than expected, Iran called in Iraqi militias to assist the group. Today, The main Iraqi Shiite militias fighting in the Aleppo area by a group called Badr Organization, a political party with a massive military wing and one of main components of the Al-Hashd al-Sha'bi. Al-Hashd al-Sha'bi. Badr were not comfortable taking orders from Hezbollah. Given Badr's successes, Iran decided to change the operational leadership in Syria. Hezbollah still controlled Qusayr and the Damascus suburb, but Badr was placed in charge of military operations in Aleppo and reports directly to the Islamic Revolutionary Guard. This did not sit well with Hezbollah and its fighters. They saw themselves as Lebanese heroes and did not appreciate being told that they were no longer Iran's spoiled child or its most trusted proxy. The Iraqis, for their part, have the Najaf factor. The Iraqi city of Najaf is one of the holiest in Shia Islam. For Iraqi Shiite, this is a source of pride and even feeling of supremacy above all the other Shia in the region. As a result, when a Hezbollah hero and a Najafi Iraqi face off, hostility and jealousy tend to prevail over brotherhood, especially in the competition for leadership. Moreover, Hezbollah fighters are having a hard time working with Iranian officials on the ground. Hezbollah fighters in Syria have said in an interview that they are becoming more and more dissatisfied. They have been surprised by the Iranians' weak military skill. They were disappointed with the Iranians' attitude, which they felt was arrogant. They feel the Iranian don't care when a Lebanese or an Iraqi dies. They don't even negotiate over the bodies of Afghanis and Pakistanians, which are usually left on the battleground to root. Hezbollah fighters are starting to understand that this is a relationship between a superior and his subordinate, and that they are mercenaries, not heroes. Will this deter Hezbollah fighters or even prompt them to abandon the battlefield? Perhaps. Some will do so. Some did, but not many. Most of them come from poor neighborhoods and do not have other source of income, no job, other than the job of being paid fighter. Before the Syrian war, Hezbollah members and supporters saw the resistance as a calling or a mission. These days, fighters who deploy to Syria refer to their task merely as the work or the job. All of this has had serious consequences for Lebanese Shia community, which is exhausted by the Syrian war. The effect has been particularly for the residents of Hezbollah-controlled neighborhoods. Many fighters return in body bags, and many more come back permanently handicapped. The community as a whole has become highly militarized, with tendency toward violence and intimidation, leading to a serious rise in crime, especially in the poorest neighborhoods. Lebanese Shia have also become isolated, rejected by other groups in Lebanon and much of the Arab world. Despite the group's claims, not all Lebanese Shia support Hezbollah. As the same case in Iraq, Not all the Iraqi Shia support the Shia militias. Wake up the world. The Shia in Iraq is no more supporting Iran. The Shia in Iraq are washing their hands from the claim of the Persian Empire over their land. But the community is widely identified with the organization. Accordingly, Shia are struggling to find work in the Gulf. This results in the vicious cycle. Arab Shia are isolated because of Hezbollah and the Iranian involvement, and thus feel they have no choice but to rely on Hezbollah and other militias and its resources just to live. They do want a way out. However, they are seeking an economic alternative, a new narrative, a credible leadership, but none of these currently exist. And in order to compete with Hezbollah, supported by Iran, only a credible narrative with a serious economic alternative could work. This applies to Iraqi Shia, as I said, and Syrian as well. These people must be given a choice that could weaken Iran's control over the region. In addition to the challenging that Iran going to face while building its hegemony, there are other consequences for the region as Iran takes over part of Iraq, Syria, and Lebanon, Yemen as well, imposing a sectarian identity on Shia community. It will have to keep the money flowing to its proxy citizens, meaning that Iran will be in charge of the Shia across this land. But this will also mean that none of these states will be independent or sovereign. When these states break up, the void will not be filled by Iran alone. Most of the areas outside the land bridge, I mean Iraq, Syria, and Lebanon, will be filled by Sunni jihadists such as Nusra, ISIS, and other Islamic factions feed on sectarian tensions, definitely. Even if the US-led coalition managed to push ISIS or destroy them out of Iraq and Raqqa, that does not mean the end of the terrorist organization. It will live on the people narrative, collective memory, and desire for revenge. With a more powerful Iran in the region, most Sunnis will be looking for an equally powerful and aggressive Sunni forces. If this is not ISIS, it will be something just as bad as it is. Sectarian clashes will not be weakened unless all the sectarian factions are dealt with equally. That is the authority of Islam. That is the authority of religion. That is what we are seeking as Iraqi free, liberal, to terminate the authority of religion in our land. That is the reason of our struggle to stop the authority of the sectarian and race and religion over the people, over the humanity. Iran's project to form a pan-Shiite army and establish their empire over the region is almost complete. Shia are part of whether they like it or not, of that empire. And the Sunnis are driven by the same force of fear and violence. The result will be always an endless war in the region that is already fragile and destroyed. Not even a partition would solve the problem, because the need for revenge and the desire for power will not be stopped by new artificial borders. The strike and the counter-strike that led to Soleimani's dismiss last Friday is the result of Americans, whether on military bases or diplomatic compounds, being left vulnerable to Iran's proxies. It is not worth it. There is nothing left for Americans to do in Iraq. American officials and analysts cannot allow themselves to be convinced that the United States must remain in Iraq, because if diplomat and military officers try a little harder, things might get better. Or because Washington was sunk vast sums into the country, or because it would be handing Iran a victory. The Iranians have already won the battle. And the sooner U.S. policymakers can digest the fact, the better. Qasem Soleimani was without a doubt a major geopolitical actor, but targeting him because he destabilized Iraq and threatened Americans there hardly seems worth the potential price. If even parts of the worst-case scenario come true, his death by drone along the Baghdad airport road will be yet another fully in the 2 decades-long American misadventure in Iraq. President Trump yesterday night tweeted, "All is well," after Iran launched a missile attack against 2 air bases in Iraq, that those U.S. troops, a strike that caused limited casualties, officials in USA. Let me say something in this occasion. The only way to improve the situation is to stop Iran from gaining more power in the region. Presenting viable economic alternatives would be a good short-term solution. Support the freedom in Iraq. Support the protesters, the free men and women in the roads of Baghdad and other places along Iraq. Support those people who blow the wake-up whistle to stop the Persian Empire from establishing its victory over Iraq land. However, a long-term solution can only involve helping the Iraqi liberals and to establish the citizenship of one secular state called Iraq, far away from any religion involvement in the leadership of this country. And if worse come to worse, and there is a war, don't make it over Iraq land. Don't make it over Iraqi people. Enough of the miserable situation that we get it from you both, American and Iranian. Go and knock your heads elsewhere, not over my lovely land, not over the land of Sumeria in Babylon. Go elsewhere and fight each other till death, hopefully death to the enemy of Iraqi people, death to the enemy of the Iraqi land. Freedom greetings, freedom greetings, freedom greetings. Iraq is great. Good night.